Hi, this is Brian with ActiveMelody.com. For this week's guitar lesson, we're going to be taking a look at a rhythm lesson that's got some fill licks. There's some simple leads that are thrown into this as well, but this is all designed to help you come up with a creative part when you're playing along with a band, whether that be an instrumental band or a band with a vocalist. What do you do as a guitar player so that you're not stepping on the toes of the vocals or the other musicians, and how do you complement the band? And that's what this lesson is all about. And what's really cool is we're going to be doing everything on the top three strings. So we're not even going to be playing on those bottom three. Everything is going to be out of the top three strings. I did that on purpose to make it easier, less variables to worry about, and we're going to be playing off these triads that we're going to be learning off the top three strings. Really cool lesson. So if you're interested in improvising and playing along with a band and knowing what to do, how do you play things that are melodic and creative, this would be a great lesson for you. So I've got the lesson split into two parts. In this video, we'll take a look at the first half. If you'd like to watch the second half and get the tablature and the MP3 jam track, which comes in multiple tempos, you can get all of those things by going to ActiveMelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP316. All right, so I wanted to just start off and share one tip that I've learned for tone for this style of playing, this slow melodic lead stuff. I used to think that you had to play clean channel, get as clean as you could get, take all the effects out and play your leads that way, but it doesn't work. And what I found is that the notes sound great when they're coming out of the amp, but then they fall really quickly because there's no sustain. So there's two things you need. You need some overdrive and you need some reverb to your sound, and that's really all there is to that. And you can dial that in with any guitar amp combination. If I were to sit down with whatever gear you've got, I could dial in something that sounds close. Now I realize that not every amp has overdrive and not every amp has reverb, and if you don't, you can always substitute pedals. There's a million pedals out there for those types of things. Overdrive and reverb are very basic, so you can always do that if you need to. But that's how I'm getting the sound, and let me just demonstrate. So if I play an E chord, I'm going to play it aggressively. So what by aggressive I mean I'm just hitting the strings hard, but you can hear how much the sound breaks up. It doesn't break up too much, it's not too crunchy, and that's what you want to keep in mind as you're dialing this in. You don't want it to sound too crunchy, but just break up as you hit the strings hard. Now if I play that same chord but play it lightly, you can still hear each note clearly, but it doesn't break up, and that's what I'm trying to go for when I'm dialing something like this in. And it's just a matter of playing around with the overdrive. If it starts to sound too crunchy like that, you just back it off until you dial it in. Then add some reverb, 30-40% depending on what you've got, and that will give you the perfect sustain, hopefully. And it's that simple. All right, so let's talk about this song. Now, I wasn't sure what to call this song this week. Is it rhythm? Is it lead? Is it fills? It's kind of all of those things. But I love this style of playing because it works really well on its own as an instrumental, but it also works really well if there's a vocalist involved, and you're in a band and you're trying to do some fill licks or some creative things sort of in the spaces between the vocal lines. This would be a great lesson for that. And there's not a lot of lesson material on this style of playing out there, so I wanted to create something that sort of fills that need or fills that gap. The other thing I'll mention is we're going to be doing everything on the top three strings. So everything is really just a triad. We're going to be looking at these little three-note chords and how we use those and pull notes out of them and all of that. So that just makes it easier. It eliminates half the strings on the guitar, so it's just less to focus on or less to worry about in terms of variables. All right, so this song is played in the key of A, and the chords we're going to be playing over are an A chord, there's an F sharp chord, then there's a B minor, then there's an E chord. Then it goes back to the A, back to the E, and that's what we're going to be playing over, those chords. And so it starts on that A chord, and what I do is I visualize the A major bar chord up here, but I'm just looking at the top three strings. So I'm looking at this little triad. So it'd be the same as that bar chord, but we don't need the rest of it. So we're just barring the first two strings there with our index finger on the 5th fret, middle finger's on the 6th fret, 3rd string. And the way I played it was like this. So actually I barred the first three strings on the 5th fret, and I played strings 2 and 3 with a hammer on to the 6th fret 3rd string with my middle finger. And then you do an upstroke on that 1 string, and that's what gives you that first little phrase there. Now that comes in right on the 1, so when we're counting it in, or when you're playing along with a jam track, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, then the song goes to the F sharp. And what did I play? Same thing, exact same thing. We're just going to slide it down to where the F sharp chord would be. So I started there on the third string, second fret. There's the hammer on this time to the third fret. And then my ring finger goes down on the fifth fret, second string. And what that note is that converts that F sharp to an F sharp 7. So think of your 7 chord, if you were to put your pinky there when you're making the chord. That's all I'm doing, is I'm touching on that note. Okay, so from the beginning we have, and then it goes to the B minor. So let me show you these notes, and once you learn these notes and how they connect to this chord shape, you'll be able to use this lick in anything going forward. But here's what I'm doing. So I'm visualizing this chord. So that's your B minor chord. So these 3 fingers are making up the A minor chord shape that you learned down in first position. You just slide them up, bar there, and now you're playing a B minor. So I can see that chord shape, and what I played is, I've got my index finger on the second fret, second string, and I do a hammer on to the third fret, pull off, and then another hammer on with my ring finger to the fourth fret, third string. And I want you to remember that lick going forward and how it connects back to this minor chord shape. Seems simple, it's just a few notes there, but this will start to unravel as we go through this. So for example, if we were playing it over a D minor, those are your notes. So now if you're playing any minor chord, you can use that little lick, that little hammer-on pull-off thing. You can work that into your solos, you can work it into your rhythm fills. It starts to become really handy. So we have, and then after that, middle finger goes down on the third fret, third string. And then while that note rings out, my index finger goes down on the second fret, second string. And then I go back to the third fret, third string. And then my ring finger goes down on the third fret, fourth string. So all together that lick goes. Now all of that was really just spelling out the B minor chord. And this note is in the harmonic minor scale, and we talked about that a few weeks ago. And so anytime you want to find that note, if you like the sound of that, it's got that kind of spooky sound. All you do is you take your root note, so in this case it would be your B note, because we're playing a B minor chord, right? And you just go down a half step. And that note is in that harmonic minor scale. And that's how I always think about it. If I want to sort of pull that sound, that harmonic minor sound, I just go into it that way. And as you learn these licks, they'll just become part of your vocabulary and you won't have to think about it as much. So anyway, and so hopefully you'll see that, and this will be a light bulb moment for some of you, that these notes equal this chord. So I played those notes, that little lick, instead of that chord there. And you can do that. And so that's, to me, that's what like rhythm fills is all about, is playing your chords just like you would as a rhythm player, but every now and then you work in a little lick, and that lick represents the chord that you would have been playing over. Since the jam track had a piano part, and the piano part was playing that chord, I didn't have to play it. That's just too much. And so I'm trying to complement the rest of the band. And if we had a vocalist, I'd probably be phrasing this a little different, because you don't want to step on the other instruments. Every now and then there's some overlap, but that's what good musicianship is all about. It's trying to make the other guys sound really good. So, and in the end, you sound good by doing that. So let's back it up from the beginning. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, the song goes to the E, and all I did was I walked it down. I've got my middle finger on the second fret, third string, and then look at this. There's your E chord, right? But I wasn't playing the full chord. We're just staying on those top 3 strings. So I do the open third string, hammer on to the first fret, third string, and then the upstroke on string 1 or 1 and 2. That's just the top part of your E chord. Okay, then after that I went, and And this is a classic move that I use all the time. It's very common. So I play strings 3 and 1, and then we slide that down 2 frets, and then I play strings 3 and 1 again. And then I come down with my index finger back down to the 1st fret 3rd string, and I play strings 3 and 1 at the same time. That's hybrid picked. And this little lick here is so useful. It's a harmonized 6, but I always connect it back to the chord shape. So for example, let me get out of first position because we've got the nut in the way, but like if I were to play over a G chord, see there's my E chord shape, just like we played down here. It'd be, right? You can see it. There's the 2 notes out of the chord, and then you come up here and play that harmonized 6. It's just a harmonized, it's really just the major scale, but it's being harmonized. And so that's what that is. So there's so much mileage you can get out of that. You can use it for blues turnarounds. Look at that, that's nice. You can play it backwards or forwards. It's really, really useful. So kind of explore that harmonized 6 thing. Let's back up from the beginning now and play us up to that point. 1, 2, 3, 4. I got, so that's open, the 1 string, the 2 string, both open, and then I play the A chord here, because the song goes back to the A, and then I just played little walk down, 2nd fret, 2nd string, 3rd fret, 2nd string, back to the 2nd fret, 2nd string, and then I came down to the 4th fret, 3rd string. Actually, I did a hammer on there. Okay, and then the song does a little walk up. The bass goes like that. And as the walk up happens, I played. We go back to the A chord, back to the 1 chord. So all of that was just one cycle through. And now we come back and we go back to the A chord, just where I played it before. But to get there, I did a little something different, which was a harmonized 3rd. And so from that A chord shape there, we're going to play strings 2 and 3. And then I've got my ring finger, my middle finger in this position. So my middle finger's on the 3rd fret, 2nd string. My ring finger's on the 4th fret, 3rd string. We play that and slide it up 2 frets. And look at where I'm at right there. I'm back in position. The same A chord, A triad chord that I started with. I'm just playing those 2 notes out of it. And so that's what I did, was I walked from this A up to this A using harmonized 3rds. And just like I showed you over the E chord, where you can use that for a turnaround, you can use this for a turnaround for A. So you could, and I use this as a ladder to get me from this A chord shape up to this A chord shape all the time. And so think about that for a minute. That's what's really happening here. We've just got an A chord and an A chord. And this is just, is your connective tissue between those 2 chords. It's like a little ladder. You're throwing a rope between chord 1 and chord 2. So hopefully you can start to see it that way, and then you can realize, oh, okay, I can go from this A up to this A. So wait a minute, that means if I'm using the A chord shape out of Caged and I'm playing a C chord, I can do the same thing for a C or a D or any chord. So it's a huge moment for you when you realize that to me is why Caged is so important. It's because it takes everything we're learning here and it makes it transferable to every chord in every song. So now you can start to unlock the whole thing. All right, so we come up there, and then I played the top 2 strings on the 5th fret, and I just hit those as a separate little part of that lick. Okay, so now this is where the song goes back to the F sharp again, but instead of me playing the F sharp, I played an F sharp 9, like this. And so what I'm doing to play that is I've got my index finger on the 4th fret 1st string, my middle finger's on the 5th fret 2nd string, my ring finger's on the 6th fret 3rd string. Easy to play because it makes a little stair step. And that's what I'm doing is 1, 2, 3, 1. That's how I played it. And as I just mentioned, we would connect our A chord to our A chord by using these harmonized thirds. Another way that I connect an A chord to an A chord, or this chord shape to this chord shape, is to play your major triad and then play the major 7, slide that down to, which would be, in this case, would be a B minor, and then down to your A. So you can hear that A major 7, B minor, down to your A. And so I use that oftentimes when I'm playing leads. I'll play something like that, and all I'm doing is I'm just walking it down. So you'll learn different ways to walk between chords, and there's a lot of them, but those are some common ones. So that's what's happening there. You got your A major 7 or your F sharp 9, depending on how you look at it. And then I walk that down to your B minor, so it worked really well. You just take that same shape and you walk it down 2 frets. And I came up here and hit the 5th fret, 1st string with my pinky while holding that shape down. All right, so let's back it up from the second time through. We have... And then the next thing that I played goes... So it's a bend and release, a half bend and release on the 2nd fret, 2nd string. And then I come down to the 4th fret, 3rd string, and walk it down chromatically. 4, 3, 2, down to your E chord. And I'm just going from the B minor to the E chord, and I was thinking about ways to do it. So from that note, which is in your B minor chord, I'm just walking it right down. And you can do that. You can walk chromatically, which just means every step along the way to get to your destination. Oftentimes that works. You just don't want to overdo it. And then I came up here and played. So we're playing over the E chord, right? So I pictured the E chord up here. That's using the A chord shape out of Cage. And then I played the top part of that chord shape. And I did this little country lick, which I use quite a bit. It's very useful because it's super easy to find. I'm just picturing this chord shape, and then I can come up here and bar the first 2 strings on, in this case, it would be the 7th fret. And I do a hammer on to the 9th fret, 2nd string. So it's hammer on, 7th fret, 2nd string, 9th fret, 3rd string. And then I take that chord, so all of that was played over an E chord. So remember that. If you're playing an E chord now, you have this really nice little country lick, and you can get a lot of mileage out of that. But don't just think about it as an E lick. You can now do that lick over any chord. So if I said to do it over a C chord, you should be able to find the A chord shape, but playing the C chord, which would be here. And that now you can play that lick over C, over any chord. Okay, so we have... There's your E lick, and then I went and walked it down. So I went really from an E to a D down to an A. It was just getting from the E to the A. So it's the 5 chord, the 4 chord, and walking it to the 1 chord. So we would take that same lick and do it again, this time from the 5th fret to the 7th fret. And then my middle finger goes down on the 6th fret, 3rd string, and look at what I made there. I'm making that triad again, that A triad, the same one we started with, rather. And then to wrap that up, I played this little country lick. So it's that A triad right there. Played strings 1, 2, and then I come down to string 3. But I do a hammer on between my middle finger and my ring finger. In this case, it would be going from the 6th fret to the 7th fret on the 3rd string. And then we go back to that 6th fret, 3rd string. So that's a great little takeaway lick. If you learn nothing else in this entire lesson, just remember this lick as a nice little lick that works off of your major triad. And what you're doing is you're playing a sus4 chord. But it's a really easy way to do that, and it's an easy way to fill out some space. And you can go backwards, so you can go, you know, you can kind of dance around that a little bit and play around with it. So think about that the next time you're playing rhythm and you're looking for a creative way to fill the space. All right, so I'm going to end this part 1 video right there. I'm going to back up and play through all of this one more time, and then I'll see you in part 2. Hopefully you're a premium member by now. If you're not, I encourage you to look into it. I put out new high quality lessons like this every week. And if you're a premium member, you get the jam track, and you can practice filling in all the stuff that we're learning this week. That's how you really learn and take things to the next level. And I've got it in 2 tempos, so I've got a slower version as well. All right, let's back up from the beginning of this. We have 1, 2, 3, 4.